Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming this morning. As you know that we've been holding consultations. This time we've changed the format of the consultations for the budget. We were in Lambasa last Saturday, and in the morning we met with general members of the public, and then in the afternoon we met with different organizations from that particular town or area. We're doing a similar thing here. But in between, on Tuesday last week, we had online public consultations with members of the public. Firstly, we started off with secondary students. So from 12 p.m. till about 3:30, 4 o'clock last week on Tuesday, we were on Facebook. So people could send in questions and send in ideas, and we would respond to it. And then on Wednesday, we had the university students in the evening. And Thursday, we had general members of the public. So today we are here, and then next Saturday, we are in Suva, and that's when it finishes off. However, let me remind you that if you actually, after today, you have ideas, you have suggestions, we still accept any submissions you may have for the budget by the 26th of April. If you want to send any ideas, you can send in your ideas or proposals by 26th of April, you can email it to that address there, over there, and then you can hand deliver it or you can post it. Shiri Gandro is the head of fiscal policy, is here, he's sitting in the front, he's the person we can call up on that number and ask for any questions or queries you may have. Now what I thought today is that we'll do a short presentation to you on the economy, where we are at, why the economy is growing, how it is growing, what are some of the issues. And then we'll open up the floor if you have any questions or suggestions. If you have any personal issues, if you have any personal matters you want to attend to, we've got staff at the back of the room. You can go and raise those matters with them. You can leave your phone contact. Accompanying us also, of course, is we have the Permanent Secretary for Economy, Makreta Konrote is here, and we have Kamal is here. And we've also got the CEO of Fiji Revenue Customs Services, Vishwadas, is sitting at the back. So if you've got any tax issues, any tax queries, you can ask him that, or if you raise any issues. He's a good-looking guy with very little hair on his head, with glasses at the back. So let me very quickly start off. Just give you a quick snapshot of just the budget phase. So the Cabinet actually decided the budget strategy on the 1st of February. What's actually happening in parallel with this, the Permanent Secretary has met all the Permanent Secretaries of all the other ministries, and then they will give their submissions to the Permanent Secretary for Economy. What type of budget they want, what are the specific areas for their respective ministries. We of course are holding a public consultations, written submissions closed by 26th of April. Then the Permanent Secretary and her team assess the submissions from the ministries and the departments between the 1st to the 12th of April. Then the Permanent Secretary then meets with the ministries and Permanent Secretaries across the table. So they'll say, okay, so somebody may come up and say, we want, for example, to build 3 ice plants in the outer islands. So Ministry of Fisheries will say that. So they'll go through the process whether 3 ice plants can be built or not, what's the cost, etc. They go through that particular process. Then of course, once that is done, then from the 7th to the 9th of May, then I sit together with the PS, with the other ministers on the other side of the table. And we go through the budget submissions and what they want with the fine-tooth comb. 27th of May to 2nd of June, we finalize the budget documents. This is what the budget looks like. You can go to the website and you can get this, of course. This is the actual budget. This was presented in Parliament. So each of the ministries, you'll see they have how much money will be spent in the department. For example, I've just opened this page and it talks about the Ministry of Employment. So over here it says that for books, periodicals, publication will get $2,000. Mediation conference, they'll have $6,000. Training expenses, $1,000. So that's how detailed it is. Motor vehicles, fuel and oil, that particular department or service will get $6,000, spare parts and maintenance $2,000. That's the detailed document. And if you want to see this, you can actually go to our website and you'll get everything there. So we finalized that document from 27th of May to 2nd of June. We print it, of course, and then we tabled the documents to Cabinet on the 7th of June in the afternoon. Then in the evening, then I stand up in Parliament and I announce the budget. That's what you call the budget. Now, when this document is presented to Parliament on the 7th of June, the figures in this document don't come into effect until the 1st of August. Because after the 7th of June is presented, then we debate the budget from the 17th to the 21st of June. Because by law, once you present the budget, you have to wait for a week to let people digest the budget, in particular the parliamentarians. Then we debate the budget. Once the budget is approved, all of this comes into effect from the 1st of August, because our financial year is from the 1st of August to the 31st of July. The one thing that comes into effect almost immediately on the night of the announcement of the budget are the tariff rates. So at 7 p.m., we stand up and announce the budget. Then from midnight, if we announce, say, the duty will go up, say, on cigarettes or alcohol, or the duty will come down, say, on, say, cars or whatever the case may be, it all comes into effect from midnight. That's how the tariff system works. So that's the budget timetable. So we are now, of course, we've had 9 years of growth. We've never had this happen before, where the Fijian economy for the straight 9 years in a row has been growing. We've reached about 7 years previously, but never had 9 years of growth. Our unemployment rate is the lowest it's been for the past 20 years. Unemployment rate is about 4.5%. 40,000 new jobs have been created. And of course, the infrastructure has been modernized. You see all the roads, development, the water, electricity, and of course, the heavy investment in education and health. Education alone in this year's budget, we're giving over $1 billion. And of course, at the global stage, we are punching above our weight. And there's a lot of engagement at the global level, which is giving us a lot of returns in that respect. So this is the gross domestic product. This is essentially the value of the goods and services. So 1970 it was $0.2 billion. Today our GDP sits at $11.3 billion. What is really interesting though is that it took almost 38 years from 1970 to 2008 to increase our GDP from 2 billion to 5.6 billion. It took 38 years. But it took only 10 years to double that amount. That's the phenomena that we are in. And it's obviously a good phenomena to be in. The trick, of course, now for us is how do we take advantage of it? What do we do? What are the policy initiatives we must put in place? What do we must all do to take advantage of this? We don't lose the momentum. So we have to be clever and strategic about it. Not think along the old ways of doing things. So this is what I was saying, the economy has been growing 9 years straight in a row. This is where Cyclone Winston came. You see, we grew by only 0.7%. Cyclone Winston, we lost 1/3 of the value of our GDP overnight. One event. Our rebuild program for Winston is over $500 million. If Winston had not occurred, we would have been $500 million richer. That's another way of looking at it. We of course projected to grow for another, projected to grow for another 3 years and beyond that too, if we get it right. More jobs, you can see unemployment rate has come down to 4.5%. These are all done by independent parties like RBF. Look at the job advertisements. How many jobs are advertised? The RBF does a study of that. So, they look at both the newspapers now. And FNPF registration, this is one way of measuring whether employment is being created. So when you get more members, new members joining FNPF, obviously there are new jobs. So you can see the number of new FNPF registration. These are the people who have completely withdrawn, people who have withdrawn from FNPF. So what are the areas in the economy that's growing? So obviously we don't just grow, rely on one particular sector. So you can see agriculture is growing by 8.2, it contributes 8.2% towards our economy. Fisheries is very low, 2.1%. Forestry is even lower, 0.6%. But manufacturing is has a large contribution, 14.1%. Construction, electricity, water, mining, financial services. You can see the services sector is quite healthy across the board. Services sector is very important for us. We believe that's a new growth area. Lautoka, of course, as you know, will now get the new hospital, the new operator for the hospital, I should say. Aspen Hospital is going to start running Lautoka Hospital from around about July of this year. Now, part of the deal is that they're going to build another wing to the Lautoka Hospital, about 300 beds. There'll be 24/7 open heart surgery facilities available. You don't have to go overseas. There'll be other surgeries available that currently is not available. Now what does that mean? It means that a lot of people will actually come to Fiji also for those surgeries from the other Pacific Island countries. So when they come, of course, they'll use Fiji Airways. It gives income to Fiji Airways. When they'll come, they stay at our hotels. They eat food at your restaurants. It creates economic growth. New money comes into the system. Of course, as I said to a few people, I remember around about in 2008, there were about 3 Japanese companies that came to see us. They wanted to set up retirement villages in Fiji. Because as you know, that Japan is a very high proportion of people are aged. They spend nearly half of their budget on the aged people. If you go to Japan now, you'll find a 75, 80-year-old person packing your groceries in the supermarket, or car park attendants. That's, because a huge number of people are actually in the higher age category. They want to set up retirement villages. That time, because Fiji got a good climate, we are known to look after people well. But the one thing that stopped them from doing so was because there's no secondary or tertiary healthcare facilities available in Fiji. So they said, what if that person has a heart attack? There's nobody who could do open heart surgery. At the moment, if one of us has a heart attack, God forbid, there's not a single Fijian doctor that can carry out open heart surgery. Not one. Which is a tragedy for the 21st century. You have to go overseas. So that will be a story of the past. So if somebody wants to set up a retirement village now, it makes it more attractive to them. So we are already, for example, talking to the Australians to say, can you develop courses with FNU where we get people to be certified in aged care? As you know, many of our people work, a lot of women work at west coast of North America, California and places like that, doing aged care. Some legally, some illegally. But there's a demand for it. And they're quite good at it. So if we have full healthcare facilities available here, then it creates an industry in itself. We get qualified people. Australia, of course, is an aging population too. So these are the kind of things that we need to think about, that we are actually thinking about, and how we can actually expand the economy. A lot of people who comment about economy or politics in Fiji only think within one box. They have not opened up the box. In fact, many people have minds like the boxes that are very closed in. So we believe the services sector is very important. It's a very simple thing. They say basic business case is this. If this man starts a business up making umbrellas, he should also have a factory that makes sunglasses. Because when it rains, he's got business. People buy his umbrella. When it doesn't rain, the sunshine, they buy his sunglasses. It's what you call mitigating a risk. So we need to spread the different areas that contribute towards our economy. Okay, so Total investments have increased about 15.6% of GDP in 2007 to over 20%. Interest rates have been low for quite some time now, which supports actually investment. Our external sector is strong. Foreign reserves are around about Fijian $2 billion to cover 4.5 months of retained imports of goods and services. Now, it's a very simple thing, and the example that I give. This gentleman over here, he's wearing the sunglasses, he's wearing a watch, he's wearing shoes. All of these things come from overseas. All of you came in your cars, those of you came in your cars, they all come from overseas. When you buy these things from overseas, they don't sell it to you in Fijian dollars. They sell it to you in Japanese yen, US dollars, Australian dollars, New Zealand dollars, euros. So you need foreign reserves to be able to trade. That's why foreign reserves are very, very important. If your foreign reserves are healthy, then people that trade with you will say, oh, this country is good to trade with. If your foreign reserves are low, they'll think, oh, this is a high risk factor. So that's why a lot of people don't understand this. Of course, in Fiji, because a lot of things that we wear, we use on a daily basis, comes from overseas, when we have more money in our pockets, when you go and buy more things, it'll have an impact on your foreign reserves. So a person who's just got a bonus, wants to go and buy 5 bottles of perfume, maybe will buy some tiles for the house, buy some lights, buys a fan, all of these things I've mentioned. This mic, this, his pen, his watch, this camera, everything comes from overseas. So when consumer demand goes up also, it puts pressure on the foreign reserves too. This is why exports are very important, because when we export things, when tourists come to Fiji, we get foreign reserves. It's all about a balancing act. Inflation is stabilizing around about 4.9%. Of course, the critical things that affect fuel, for example, and kava have contributed to the increase in prices. Fuel, I remember in 2008, 2009, was US $149 a barrel. Then it dropped. For a number of years, it was 30, 50, 40 US dollars a barrel. Today, fuel sits at about nearly 80 US dollars a barrel. So that obviously has an impact on pricing. Cyclone Winston, till today, the price of Yongona is still quite high comparatively, prior to Winston. Some people still drink it at the same rate, despite it going up. But the fact of the matter is it has an impact on inflation. Just for tax purposes, those of you who are business people would know, used to pay tax rates of about 35%, corporate tax rate. Today, corporate tax rate sits at 20%. Personal income tax used to be quite high. In 1974, between 1974 and 1985, if you earn $600 or more, you paid tax rate. You started paying tax. In 2007, if you earn $8,840, if you earn more than that, you pay taxes. Of course, now you don't pay any tax until you earn $30,000 or more, which means people have more money in their pocket, right? Because you no longer have to give it to government. No PAYE for anybody that earns less than $30,000. So they have more money in their pocket, which means they can spend. We want to keep these attractive tax rates. And you can see our tax revenue, how much it's increased. Our tax revenue was $3.4 billion. Even though tax rate has come down, tax revenue has gone up. Why? Because traditionally speaking, when you decrease tax rates, more people comply, they pay. So what's the point of stealing? Although some people still steal from the system. They hide the figures. Generally then people actually contribute more. But of course, tax compliance facilities have also been put in place. Now we have our expenditures targeted towards public investments to modernize infrastructure, improve connectivity, not just in roads, water, electricity, but also digital connectivity. We're spending over $40 million so people can use their phones, etc. We have Wi-Fi hotspots. All the FNU campuses in Fiji now are Wi-Fi hotspotted. The kids can go there and simply start using their laptops, their computers, their phones, etc. And of course, we've been investing in human capital and putting in place smart, innovative economic social policies. And we want to create, of course, consistency. If you look at our tax regime, we have not significantly changed it. Some significant changes took place a few years ago, we left it at that. Because people, business people, generally investors will like to know that there's stability. Economic stability in terms of your policy is very, very important. It gives people confidence. So overseas people are very confident. This morning, I had a meeting with a company from Australia that's looking at making different movie type productions in Fiji. What they want is stability. We have one particular production that's coming from USA. They'll be spending over $70 million in about 7 months in that production of that particular movie. Now what does that mean? They'll hire about 300 Fijians. They'll go and stay at our hotels. They'll pay STT. They pay EKL. They rent cars. They hire helicopters. So this is what injects money into the economy. But they won't come if the policies are unstable. We have a tax rebate system. They'll actually know, okay, these people give the tax rebate. They give it on time. Let's go to Fiji. Great location, great people, but also policies are implemented well. That's very important. Now, as most, in particular business people will tell you, even you know, we all have two types of expenditure in our lives. One is what you call your fixed cost, your operating cost, and one is, of course, your capital expenditure. So a businessman, when he runs a business, wages, electricity, water, rent, that's the operating expenditure. The other expenditure is if they want to extend their warehouse, build a new warehouse. So generally for that, they'll go out and borrow money. They must make enough money from the day-to-day running of the business to pay for their operating expenditure. There's no point borrowing to pay for wages. No point borrowing to pay for electricity. That means you don't have a good business model. So as a government, our target has been to reduce our operating expenditure but increase our capital expenditure. In other words, put more money into building things. Build more roads, water, electricity, school, health centers. Because when you build things, then of course they'll last long. Like most countries in the world, we borrow money. Governments borrow money. We're not like businesses where it's simply driven by profit. If you're going to connect, for example, a group of houses in a remote place on top of that hill, it may cost us $500,000 or say $1 million to take the electricity there. But there may be only 10 homes. Now if we were running purely a business, we'd say there's no point in going there, because those people's electricity bill will only be $50. So we're not going to make any profit, or the rate of return, we'll get it back in 50 years' time. But we can't do that as a government. We have to provide electricity. So the issue is, therefore, you borrow money. The question is, how much money do you borrow? Why are you borrowing? If we're going to borrow money to build one nice big convention center on the top of that hill in Tendamu, for say $50 million, we borrow money, it's going to be used 3 times a year. That's not a good business. That's not a good reason to borrow money. But if you're going to borrow money so you can connect people to electricity, and suddenly they can store their fish in the fridge, they can store their vegetables in the fridge, improve the quality of their lives, that's a good reason to borrow money. That's how you need to think. So you can see, I always use this as a case point. So if you, for example, 2006 over here, the government then spent 85% of its budget went into operating expenditure. Only 15% went into capital expenditure. Today, 59% of the budget is operating expenditure, but 41% is capital expenditure. So we've changed the mix. We're going to spend more on building things. Again, very quickly, and this is very important figures to know so you can appreciate what's happening, is that from 1980 to 2006, which is about 27 years, our total capital expenditure was Fijian $3.5 billion. And our debt increased by Fijian $2.6 billion. From 2007 to this financial year, which is 11 years, which is far less than half of that, we've spent $7 billion in capital expenditure, which is double that amount, but our debt has increased by a lesser amount of $2.3 billion. And the reason why that has happened is because for every dollar of capital expenditure that was spent, 76 cents was borrowed from 1980 to 2006. For every dollar of capital expenditure from 2007 till now, every dollar spent there, we borrow only 36 cents. Why? Because we have what we call an operating surplus. If you take the amount of money we collect as revenue, and you take the amount of money that we have to spend on the day-to-day expenses, operating expenditure, we have a surplus. About 850, Siri? About $850 million. So we spend that money first on capital expenditure, then we go out and borrow money to build other things. Now, a lot of people talk about debt without understanding debt. There are two ways of measuring debt. One is the dollar value. And the other one is a percentage of your GDP. Let me give you an example. These two gentlemen look like business people, so I'll use them as an example. Now, assuming his income is $100 and he has a debt of $20. So you say his debt is $20, income $100. What is his debt to income ratio or GDP ratio? Is 20%. 20 over 100 is 20%. Assuming his debt is $50, but his income is $500. So if I just take the dollar value, you say who's got the higher debt? Who's got the higher debt? He's got $50 debt, he's got only $20 debt. But because his income is $500, his debt to GDP ratio is only 10%. He's borrowed $20, but his debt to GDP ratio is 20%, he's got an income of only $100. So he's got more capacity to pay the loan. The bigger the business, the more cash flow you have, the more ability you have for you to borrow. So it depends on the capacity. On the face of it, you say, oh, he's in trouble. He's got $50 debt. He's only got $20 debt. But in fact, he may be in trouble because he only earns $100, but he earns $500. Okay, so I hope you understand that. So this is what we call the nominal. When you look at just the figures, the nominal value of our debt. The dollar value. The dollar value of our debt today is $5.1 billion. That's the dollar value of our debt, Fijian dollars. But as a percentage of GDP, it's been coming down. That's our policy focus. Why? Because we are growing our economy. We are becoming wealthier. So we have the capacity to borrow more. Like if you go to a bank, and if you say earn $30,000 and you say to them, I want to borrow $1 million. You say, go away. You can't do the loan repayment. But if you're earning $500,000 and you want to borrow $1 million, they say, okay, we'll consider it because you have the capacity to pay because you have more wealth. That's a better way of measuring your debt. Now, the reason why this has gone up to 50% here is because of, remember the $500 million I talked about that we've been spending over the past few years to do the rebuild. And again, we expect that to go down even further. You can see we put it down, Kenny, Josie, there's of course another one called Gita and Winston. Now, what's our strategy for this upcoming budget? Now, what we want to do is embrace a new wave of development. We need to think about the stage. There's no point in us saying, oh, we've achieved 9 years of growth, everything is hunky-dory. No, we have to constantly remodel ourselves, constantly think about new ways. Today, 50% of our population is below the age of 27. 50%. 70% of the population is below the age of 40. Most of you in this room are over the age of 40. I can see that. So the majority of the people in Fiji, or people who are in the majority category, aren't here. All those over 40 are here. So they are the key people. They are the ones who are going to drive our economy. How are you going to give them jobs? What kind of jobs do you want them to do? We of course have invested in education. We want them to be all educated, trained, ready. So the CEO of FSC, when he needs engineers, we can give him engineers. When he needs electricians. I was told by EFL, which used to be FEA, a New Zealand company just recruited 25 of their experienced linesmen, electrical linesmen. 25 people, they've gone, just like that. So which means EFL now is short of 25 experienced linesmen. Probably took them years. They've gone through certification, the courses, and now they've gone. So we have to train more people. When the Christchurch rebuild started taking place, a lot of people, bricklayers, carpenters, joiners, New Zealand is looking for those people, so they went. That means we have a shortage of our people over here. It puts pressure. So maybe the quality of bricklayers will diminish in Fiji. There's a shortage of people, so the cost of construction will go up. You see, you need to think about all these things. So how are we strategizing to address those issues? Now, we need to, of course, bring and empower all Fijians to be part of the budget. As I mentioned, our fiscal deficit will gradually be reduced. Again, maintain low and attractive tax rates. We must keep that. Continue to streamline taxation and customs administrative processes. So we've said to the CEO of FIRCUS that they need to constantly look at the way they do business. Some people in FRCS don't see taxpayers as their clients. They don't come with a big stick. We want them to see them as their clients. We want them to have good relationship with them. We don't want them to go and talk to them rudely. We want them to be actually see them as partners. That's the attitude change that we need to. Of course, at the same time, of course, we need to tighten compliance because there are some people who still don't pay tax. There's still a black economy. They need to pay taxes. If everybody paid taxes, of course, we'll have more money to do more development. Everybody else will benefit, subsequently. This is very important. Ensure tax and duty concessions are passed on to ordinary Fijians. There are a number of areas where we reduce duty. With zero-rated duty on many food items. Zero-rated duty on everyday goods, or 5%, brought it down from 32 to 5%. But we see it's not being passed on down to the ordinary consumers. So what we are doing, as you know, the Competition and Commerce Commission is looking at greater compliance in that area. Adequate funding for infrastructure, funding of provision of clean water, electricity, again education, youth entrepreneurship schemes, small medium enterprise development. This is very important to us. Increase home ownership. The rate of home ownership in Fiji is very low. We want more people to own their own homes, secure land title, secure a lease. So in that way, when people have their own properties, they have their own assets, they don't go to money lenders, they build their own homes, it creates a construction industry again. That's very important for us to do. Social protection, as you know, we've been giving disability allowance, etc. Focus on agriculture and sugar, and investment in digital divide. That's very important. So, like I said, that you please give your budget submissions. Some of you, we found a lot of places when people come and they listen, they have ideas, then they'll go away, then they send us an email to say, look, this is what we want, or this is what we like, and you can do that. In fact, we already started receiving that, or you can post it, you can hand deliver it. As I said, Shiri is here, you can call him, otherwise. I just wanted to very quickly show you other countries. Look at the debt to GDP ratio of Japan. Japan's debt to GDP ratio is 239.2%. In other words, 239.2% more than what they actually make. We sit here at 50%. That's where Singapore sits, USA sits. But nobody in Fiji says that Japan is having a problem. Nobody says USA is having a problem or Canada is having a problem, Singapore. A lot of people in Fiji, they create a lot of unnecessary tension and noise and misinformation. That's as a percent of GDP. Look at it in dollar value. Japan's debt is in US dollars, $11.8 trillion. Our debt in US dollars is to $0.42 billion. As I said, 5 million Fijians is about 2.42 US billion dollars. US is the most debt-ridden country in the world, $19.9 trillion. That's their total debt exposure. A lot of people still want to migrate to USA. They don't see it as a problem. But when Fiji has a debt of 2.42, oh, Fiji's got too much debt, without actually understanding what it means. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll end it there now.